Ready when you are, Simon.
Go for it. Yep.
Okay, right. Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to the meeting of the Standing Orders Working Group. We're here to talk about the way that we get councillors onto committees. We are quorate because there are 3 councillors here, being recorded by Simon Mallet, one of our other councillors as well. Simon, please, if you want to make a contribution, please do so, and just wave your hand and we'll take it from there.
I'll come and sit there in a bit.
Yeah, that would be excellent. And all contributions are welcome, just as we worked when we met before. There is an agenda which I had circulated. First of all, we have, and I, by the sound of it, I'm still not good at doing minutes, but there we go. We've got apologies from Nick, who's travelling, and Emmett is hoping to join us later on.
Oh, good.
He's in town, but he's got another appointment, so Emmett later, right? And we'll do the usual thing. I'll take some notes and circulate them to you. Are there any declarations of interest that we need to note?
Other than I'm very interested in the outcome of this task that we're doing.
Yes.
But you don't have a
I don't have a peculiar interest
Okay. We have nobody here for public participation, so that's fine. What's that? Is that a feedback, Mr.
now. That's feedback.
Are you sure about that? Yeah. It seems to have stopped now.
Well, yes, because we're still talking.
Right. Sorry, folks, we have a slight technical glitch until we get the feedback sorted.
No, I think it was me.
Oh!
Yeah.
Oh, right, fine, okay, right. Okay, so the objective is to develop proposals for Sandwich Council on ways to appoint councillors to council committees. We have to do this for the April 2024 Sandwich Council meeting, which is right at the end of the month, the 29th. I'm trying to get as much done this week. If we could finish it today, that would really be excellent. Hello, Emmett. Come and join us, please. We had just done the usual introductions and no public participants and things like that.
No, I didn't have the room, so.
Right, so you're
Yes.
you're still hailing.
I am, yes, I'm still alive.
That's the main thing. Right. Okay. So the problem, as I see it, and please chip in, folks, if you disagree or have another perspective. Last year was election year, so it does make it a bit difficult. But I spoke to many councillors, and they certainly were not canvassed in any detail about what their skills, experience, or anything else were. And it seemed to be that the mayor and the town clerk, I'm not quite sure who was doing what, rather arbitrarily said Fred Bloggs on this committee, Joe Smith on another committee, whether they expressed interest in it or not. So we need to have something better, which is, I think, more transparent, that people can feel they have participated. If they're not successful, at least it's been an open selection method. So that's where I'm coming from. Does anyone have any disagreement with that?
I think you might just be being a little bit unkind about canvassing for skills, because I do remember being asked to send in a little biopic type of thing of myself and what my qualifications were and what experience that I had. So, I do remember doing that.
Did you feel that was used in any way?
Well, I did get something back from the mayor, saying, oh, I didn't realise, for instance, I've got a master's in business and stuff like that. But I kind of, the concerns are, I did do a little bit of a prep for this.
Yes.
the concerns that I really have are that the concern is centred on situations where there are more councillors willing to serve than there are places available on the committee. And in such cases, appointments to committees should be an open and transparent decision where the most suitably qualified and experienced councillors are appointed to that committee, providing they are willing to serve. In the past, what I've observed is councillors voting themselves onto committees, and I feel very strongly that that is not the way we in Sandwich Town Council should behave.
Mhm.
And I think when that happens, the mayor himself is not protected from allegations of cronyism and corruption. And councillors that are appointed may not be active members of the committee. They get the names on the committee, but what do they actually do? So I think it's important that, councillors who are prepared to be active should be on the committee. And overall, it's important for the council, in my mind, to see that the appointees to a committee have their full support, because we were taught in the tutorial that we need to trust our committees. The committees are the vehicles for getting things done. And it's difficult to trust a committee if you don't feel the committee has been elected properly in the first place. So that's where I'm coming from, and that's why I think it's important that we have an open and transparent decision process to get I think it's the duty of us to have the most competent people on committees who have the time available to serve.
Okay. Martin, you wanted to say that?
Yeah. Firstly, as you say, I think most concern centres on the situation where you have more councillors wanting to serve on the committee than there are places available. And I know it's very easy to say, oh, well, you just increase the places available. But I suspect that is a bit of a trap and would, in most cases, harm the functioning of the committee because you get too big a group.
Mhm.
I think that the notion of using people's skills and experience is an important one. I can understand that the mayor would like to have an overview of that, and in a sense, the mayor does have a special role. It's he knows probably more about the sort of participation and skills of each councillor, certainly if it's not an election yet. But having said that, I find it very irritating to arrive in a meeting and just somebody is proposed without any sort of explanation to join the committee or the chairman or whatever. And it does need to happen in a more transparent way. In my view, it's transparency which is the big issue here. Whether it can be done democratically, I think is interesting in this town council insofar as there is no party politics involved.
Mhm.
Lots of councils, of course, they have, one political group and another political group, and there is a desire on all parts to get a sort of balance in committee membership. We don't have that problem.
Yeah.
So we can, in fact, push the idea of skills and experience more strongly.
Okay.
I've got lots more ideas in my head, but that's all I want to say now.
Right. Anything in particular?
So I think from my perspective, if I look back to the first year's experience, I was reasonably comfortable with it from a personal perspective. I wasn't skilled audited, however, what I applied for I was the place on, so I didn't feel disappointed. I can recall one example of one particular committee where it was completely out with my sense of transparency, fairness, etc. So I think there was certainly one rogue example. However, overall, I think it was reasonable. The other issues, I think, is if you only focus on the most competent, most skilled people, we've got 16 people, all 16 should have a right, in my opinion, to represent themselves and the town in a governance activity. There is a risk that one or two people could always come to the bottom of the pile if it was top heavy in terms of numbers, so it might be difficult. So there has to be some slight nuancing. The other side of that, of course, is that you then can end up, and we can see that already, of a councillor being on nearly every single meeting, which in itself is questionable about the capacity of any individual to do everything on every matter. So, yeah,
Thank you.
I think my best approach to get it right this year in terms of what I saw last year is keep it clean, keep it simple, keep it transparent.
Okay. Thank you. Any comment?
No great feelings here, more than has been said.
Right.
If I was to add anything, it's sort of where a councillor opts to be on a committee to manage others, to feeling that they have more association with the town, possibly, with keeping, with the morality, with whatever, not morality, I think that's the wrong word, but the conscience of the town almost. I think we're there for a particular reason, to get things right. And we all have the same conscience, we all have the same aims.
Yeah.
And just accepting that.
And just another thing which I don't think we can answer through this process, but for example, if there is a particular committee that any councillor feels that they would like to get involved in at the next event of review, there is the risk that you say, well, actually, we've got the experts, they've been doing it for 15 years or 10 years or the last couple of years. Why would you think you have a right to have a seat at that particular table? But sometimes it's good to have a fresh pair of eyes.
Sometimes good to have a historical memory as well.
It's
the balance, isn't it?
Yeah, it's getting the balance.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed on planning.
I didn't want to mention it, I think.
Right, yes, you noticed.
Well, the case came up where, I didn't know the case, but several other councillors did, and it was useful for me to learn from them and hear what had happened in the past.
Right, I accept that, but I think planning is a really good example where I can see also the weakness.
I get the message.
That's not the only one.
Sorry, just a final point for me. The other thing is to say we are all elected as councillors, and if we are required to trust the committee to do that work, there's absolutely no reason why councillors who are not on the committee should not know that the meeting is taking place and be able to sit at the council, in the council chamber, at the table, to listen and participate without voting, and to be able to watch the body language and listen, because I think that's part of the councillor fulfilling their role of auditing and checking that everything's been done okay.
I would endorse that, and I think one of the issues that we have had is, and I've sat on the committee we just mentioned this week and made a few points, but I had to ask specifically for minutes. I don't know if there are any other documents that were not made available, but I think it should be automatic that all councillors should have access and should be sent the agenda, the minutes, and any other documents, or at least, at the very least, they can request it and be sent to them automatically. Because we've had some meetings where documents have suddenly mysteriously appeared, were not made available to councillors who weren't on the committee, and I think that is a negation of what should be happening. I fully endorse the comments you've got, Peter. Can I just as a reminder, just run through some extracts from standing orders, then we'll get down to the butler. 216. The mayor and deputy mayor of the council have no direct powers or privileges beyond those of an ordinary councillor. That's in the standing orders. The mayor shall be an ex officio member of each committee unless otherwise agreed at the annual meeting. Town councillors, other than committee members, may attend meetings of each committee and may participate fully in discussions, but may not vote. So I didn't vote a couple of days ago. Right, unless the committee determines otherwise, the committee may appoint a subcommittee whose terms of reference shall be determined by the committee, which is why here today we're concentrating on the main Sandwich Town Council committees, not on subcommittees. Whether they choose to adopt the same process, I think is a matter for them. Unless the council determines otherwise, all members of an advisory committee and an advisory subcommittee may be non-councillors. 4310, draft minutes shall be issued expeditiously after any meeting and not later in 2 weeks. And we have a big problem that they are not being issued until the last moment. Okay, we have a resource issue at the moment, but surely in the longer term. Right, and that's all I think that is important from committees. There are obviously many other things in standing orders, but I thought it important for the record that we understand this. Could I move forward because, I did a mind map and Peter has also done a decision tree kind of thing. And I wonder if we should move straight to them. And the first thing is, if you have an exact number of councillors applying for a committee as the committee requires, why do we need to do anything? I know you asked the question, Peter, does that committee need to be voted in per se, or can we just say, right, we put it up, there's 7 people required for this committee, and 7 have stood and nobody else has expressed an interest? Do we just say, fine, that's all it is, move on? Is that satisfactory, or do we need something a bit more?
I think there should be a group affirmation of it, but I don't think you'd go through individual councils in that circumstance.
I think that applies even with leaves of vacancy. I mean,
Yes.
if you have a committee of 8 and 6 people applying, I think you would accept that, you would appoint those councillors to the committee, but there have to be questions about why.
Could I come on to that in just a moment?
Okay.
And I think Peter's done the same approach. Let's do, the easy one is exact match.
Yeah.
When you say a group affirmation, what sort of things?
You know, in the sense of that, are we content to agree to this committee membership? Just that high level statement. So you've then got, from a governance perspective, you've given a tick in the box. So there's no confusion.
Is that a vote, or is that just?
Well, what are we doing with the others? Are we looking for votes? I think it does suggest votes. We're taking it into which meeting?
It goes into the April meeting for agreement by the Sandwich Town Council and then applies with immediate effect, so that in May, when the committees are set up, we have a process.
Yeah, I mean, in that case, where there are a number of councillors that correspond to a number of people, you still need to go through the annual meeting, because it may be that someone wants to challenge someone's membership.
Okay.
I can see
Even though
several cases where there might be a reason not to have somebody.
even though that person didn't apply for the committee, because we're talking purely at the moment.
No.
Yeah.
Somebody has applied to be on the committee,
Yeah.
but another councillor may feel they shouldn't be on that committee for one reason or another. So it still has to go through
Some form of affirmation, which is, could be the whole council. Does everybody
Can
agree?
you think of a scenario where it might be, personally, without knowing an example, okay, but I'd be uncomfortable with that. For me, if it was 8 places and 8 people wants to be on it, I'd just say, can we get that tick in the box? So what's your scenario that might?
Yeah, I agree in most cases. You know, I think that would apply and everyone would feel comfortable with that. But there may be.
The only reason I ask is we're quite active at being very active as a council. What tends to happen is we tend to get last night, a good example. We sometimes get a bit too wound up about detail. And sometimes actually we just need to breeze through stuff because it's sensible to do so. I'm just trying to get the right balance, Martin.
Yeah.
Or else
Just
every
a
membership will be
hypothetical
challenged.
example, as a hypothetical example, I wouldn't want somebody to be on finance and general purposes who had some sort of question mark over their own financial behaviour in the past.
So for me, I think if that's the case, if there are 8 places and the proposal is 8 places, somebody else could nominate and then we trip into a different scenario where there are more willing councillors than seats available. And the voting regime changes. But if there is an exact match, I agree that there needs to be an affirmation so that everybody knows, all of the councillors know that these people have been elected. Otherwise, it could have been done secret doors or whatever. So I'm very happy for that to be a block vote.
Yes.
So if there are 8 councillors on the committee, the other 8 councillors would then vote.
Yeah.
People who are on the committee don't have a vote.
But I see that vote not, and I'm sorry, I am challenging that a little bit, because what I don't, if you flip the coin and you had a particular individual who wanted to just cause trouble within council meetings, they could, in every single group, there was an exact match, challenge against some people for whatever reason. And I don't think we should be behaving like that as individuals. We're all elected, as long as we're all validly serving as councillors. That exercise, if you've got an exact match, just do the affirmation tick as a block. We've got enough, haven't we? Yes, move on to the next one.
Yeah, and the only people voting are
The
the
nominee.
councillors who are voting and placing their trust and saying, yes, we trust
We are
you.
content.
Sorry, it's just to pick up your point. Just formal, you say the councillor candidates to be on the committee wouldn't be voting.
They wouldn't vote themselves onto that committee.
See, I did struggle with that as well.
So if you have a committee of 9, as we do,
Right, and so
But
we've
you
got,
can't-
we've got a majority of the other councillors, we've got 7 other councillors, so as long as they go.
if you haven't got a majority of councillors, you.
You are technically correct. You do need, there will be, and there will be some occasions when we're doing these committees, when some people may not be here. My view is that the whole council should, and this one, if there is no challenge in an exact match, in my view, it should be an affirmation by the whole council. That's the only circumstance it will be, I would have thought, an affirmation by the whole council. But we've all got to say, do we agree? And if some disagree, well, yes, but presumably they will be outvoted. Peter, would you be happy with something like that in this circumstance?
If I'm happy to go along with my colleagues on that and accept that.
See, my position was at the opposite end, because my view is that regardless of whether I'm wanted to in the committee or I'm looking outwards in for a committee, I would want to have a vote. Back to my very first statement was, let's keep it simple. What I don't want is to end up, I believe it's 26 variations of how we tackle things depending on what we're trying to deal with. I struggle to understand why, even if I wanted to be on a committee, why I wouldn't vote for that. But happy to be convinced otherwise.
Just to talk on the whether somebody should be because they're not the right person. Ultimately, they've been elected, so we have to respect the democratic process there. But equally, the whole council have been elected.
Yes.
So equally, they would respect their democratic process.
Okay. So summing up, I think what we're saying is, if you've got an exact match, we think there needs to be some form of whole council affirmation that this is the committee.
Yeah.
If someone on the committee says, I don't like Fred being on the committee, well, that's a matter for them to discuss. But the council is affirming Fred is included, unless, as you say, there are very good reasons why Fred should not be included. But that should have been sussed out before.
And I don't think it should be part of the process.
No. Well, the Rick Montin's got a lot of experience in
Yeah.
city council, and
Yeah.
I think that's the value you've seen, Rick's gone off the rails. Would you be content with what we're suggesting here, that it's a whole council affirmation?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, there's the rules that it's mentioned.
Well, yeah, there is the
If
rules
you
that,
want to
you
block the
know,
process, you nominate somebody else.
but there's also the rules, you know, that you were talking about earlier. The existing committee, but if it's a committee of 9, well,
Yes.
we'll keep the committee
And hope nobody
themselves
applies.
and hope nobody applies and.
We're not starting from that perspective, are
Well, we are.
Well, we're coming on to it.
we? Yeah, I'm sorry. So if you said the Finance and General Purposes Committee has 9 members,
No.
so before we go into the meeting to affirm or otherwise, we will ask all councillors which committees do they want to serve on.
Yeah.
Yeah? The 9 that already exist might say they want to still stay on it, but they won't necessarily. Somebody else might step in, somebody might step off. So you end up with 9.
Yeah.
You just go to the meeting and affirm that choice. I personally, in keeping it simple, I don't think we have an argument in that meeting if we've got a direct match about somebody saying, hold on a minute, why is this council on there when I don't agree? If it's 9 for 9, don't
I think I'd agree with that. If,
I'm just trying to address the concern you raised earlier,
which I don't
which is the newcomer, somebody wanting to go onto the council,
Yes.
go onto the committee because the existing committee feel, oh, we don't want.
But then they've declared beforehand that they want to be on it. They're on the list, and if it takes it to 10, then it's
Then it's the
default
process.
or whatever. If it's still 9, they're on.
Yeah, no, if we've got a match.
Yeah. It's keeping it transparent in the sense that if you put a bid in early on, somebody doesn't come out with a different process that actually you missed out, actually you needed to make a phone call to to whoever.
Yeah,
you won't go there.
Yeah, I'm just, keep it simple, keep it transparent.
Okay, are we content then
Yeah.
for this circumstance?
Yeah, that's the easy one.
Well, I was going to suggest for the next one, again, trying to keep it very simple. I am a simple soul, as you know, this is my mind map was, if you have insufficient numbers, I would have thought a fairly simple process, which is at the council meeting, we say, look, we've only got 5 and we need 6.
Yeah.
Is anyone, sorry,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. It's, I mean, the wording is each committee has up to, if I remember rightly.
you're right, you're correct, and we need to sort of, that's what I'm coming on to try to address a way of that. But let's say a committee should have up to 6, right? And you've only got 5 people applying.
Yeah.
Is the first sensible thing to do to look around the chamber and say, does anybody have a burning desire to do this, or will bring particular things to this party? If the answer to that is nobody's rushing to do that, then you have to say, okay, as long as you record it, I think if you're not called it, you have a big problem.
Yeah.
Can we envisage a committee where so few people want to join it? I think that's unlikely. But if you are called, then you have 2 choices. You either say, well, we'll wait a couple of weeks and see if somebody sees how marvellous this committee really is. You really wanted to spend your time on gas and salts or whatever it was. Try and be neutral here. And if somebody doesn't emerge, can you find it workable if you've got a quorum? Or can you bring some people in who are not councillors, but of course you have to decide whether they have voting rights or not, and I don't think they have. They haven't got voting rights. But that's the way you could beef up the numbers, but you've always got that option in any committee to bring in some lay members who don't have voting rights.
But that still won't overcome the problem of court.
It won't, no, if you're not quorum, then I think,
And don't forget, the whole point about having lay members involved, it really should be driven out by the committee itself.
Yeah,
I.e. they look across the piece and say, there's a gap here. There's a
we
suitable
want a
person.
forensic accountant to help us with this, yeah.
There would be another possibility is that if you don't have enough members to reach a quorum rate, it would be you actually reduce the quorum.
Yeah. Okay, so,
I mean, I'm just thinking,
Yeah.
no, you're absolutely right. I mean, you need to change your terms of reference. Yeah, which,
But let's not, for today's exercise,
Right.
we are coming up with a simple process that will work.
ask for, if it's insufficient, we ask for more at the meeting.
Do we want to affirm those names for the first, or do we want to affirm after we've got the additional?
You might wait a long time. You might wait a long time to get the full membership.
Yes, sorry, no, I mean in the meeting, so for example, if you're short by two and then two put names forward, do you then do the affirmation there? At some point you need to affirm
I think
the membership
you affirm those who have
to start with.
volunteered.
Volunteers, yeah. So do an affirmation first, so that then you're just dealing with the short form.
Okay, so I've got affirmation, ask for more at the meeting, if successful, affirm the others, the additional members, yes?
Yep.
Okay, provide, and the critical thing is being quorate.
Yes.
If you're not quorate, then you're going to, then the council has to look at the terms of reference for that committee. Or not even run that committee.
I don't think we need to go on that.
Okay. All right, so do I leave it as simple as that? Peter, does that accord broadly with what you were thinking
Sorry,
about?
can you just say that again?
Right. There are insufficient numbers.
Yeah.
We first of all affirm those who,
Yeah, got that,
Yeah.
yeah, that's.
then we ask for more volunteers at the meeting.
Yeah,
If you get enough volunteers, or even one volunteer, you may still be short, you would affirm that person as well, or that larger committee. I think you'd affirm the committee rather than individual.
Yeah.
Yeah. Provided you're quorate. If you're not quorate, then you're going to have to think about your terms of reference for the committee, because we can't just willy-nilly change quorum. And I suppose the ultimate, the nuclear one is that if not enough people are there consistently, why are you having this committee? But I think that's very, very unlikely, because we're talking about, actually, we need to just step back a moment after this and just check what committees we've got.
Yeah.
Have I got the consensus of the meeting?
I don't. So my view would be, again, not wanting to bog down this process with all of the arrows off into different directions. I think you go to the point of getting additional volunteers. At that point, if it doesn't resolve a working committee, you then leave it to the council to make a decision what happens next. It will depend on the committee, it will depend on the circumstances.
Yeah.
So let's not try and map out every
Okay.
arrow we go off towards.
Okay, so the critical thing, if not quorum, then the council's got to decide. Now, can I just step back a minute? I should have done this. I did on my mind map, which some of you may find a bit odd. How many committees are there? I sent it to everyone as a PDF.
Well, it's, go on.
Finance? Yeah.
I think there's,
Yeah, three
Fine.
figures.
I've got HR,
Yes,
Heritage and Townscape,
yes,
Finance,
yes,
Planning,
yes.
and Monk's Wall, which I know is an anomaly. Because it really is a charity, isn't it?
Yes.
So it is a committee, it was a subcommittee at one point, so it is a committee at the moment, so that's what we're working on.
So there are 5, whereas we've got sort of the subcommittees essentially are IT,
Closed.
it's closed now, finance, museums and archives, which is a subcommittee, the finance and assets of Torbridge Fund,
Finance and assets now to.
That's a working group.
that's a working group, and working groups I've got IT, which is now closed off,
Yeah.
Maddox,
Closed,
closed now,
to be closed.
disability and allotments.
Disability is right.
Yes, I know disability.
Yeah,
I don't know
allotments
that's
hasn't made.
the allotment.
Okay.
Hasn't made.
But I think we should just concentrate on HR, heritage and landscape, F&GP, planning, and by default, will fall into these,
Yes.
these rules.
Yeah, well, Madam Chair.
The only twist I can think of is that finance and general purposes committee is mirrored for the Tilford Fund.
I have deliberately not said in this, but in my paper that the council looked at last month, I said, should a similar approach be adopted for the Tollbridge Fund? And because the meeting did rather not go to plan,
Complex.
that was too preposterous, is the word you were thinking of. That never being discussed, but I think it's something that the Tollbridge Fund should make a decision about.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I
But
don't
the
think,
council can't do it for the Tollbridge Fund. The Tollbridge Fund has to make a decision.
exactly. But I mean, you know, this is outside our remit, but I do think that the council really has to give you that relation to the
I think that's
I don't know what it's used for, but that's,
okay.
that's, I think, in the first instance, the finance and general purposes.
I think you're right. Okay, so we have 5 at the moment. We're not looking at Tollbridge. Sorry, I interrupted everybody there by coming back to that. So now we're on to the thorniest one, which is where we have too many people. And I think that the first question to ask is, does anybody want to stand down? Yeah?
Yeah.
Because somebody might think, oh, I really have to do it, but oh, here's a great escape route for me. So we stand down. If that doesn't solve the problem, what do we do?
Well, what I suggested in the paper is if there are still too many councillors willing to serve, each of those councillors shall state in less than 2 minutes why they're suitably qualified and experienced to serve and commit that they've the time available to be an active member. So it's basically a hustings.
How do people feel about that?
From a purist's point of view, that is the right way to do it. The issue I then have is, I think you then go on to say that those that aren't standing, they are who vote.
Sorry?
Those that aren't wanting to be in that committee, is that right? So if you've got a finance committee, you've got 12 people against 9, so you've got a surplus. The remaining councillors, the remaining 4 councillors are the councillors that vote whether which of the 12 should be on it.
No, I think we would have some form of vote where every councillor can vote,
So every
but
councillor-
not
okay.
vote for
themselves.
themselves. And so at the end of, whether it's done secretly or whatever, we have a list and the town clerk blocks out, so you can't vote for yourself, and then it comes out that if one councillor has received 16 votes and another councillor has only got 9 votes, so we want the least number of votes.
Election voting.
Yes,
so
yeah,
if the
exactly.
names of the councillors who want to stand, and you all vote cross against.
That's right, and the ones that have got the most votes up to the cut-off point are there.
That's it, yeah. And if there are 2 tied on the same number, if there are 2 tied on the same number of votes, well then we have to go again. I've got a second round of the ballot.
Right, so
So just being devil's advocate, so if we start from what happened last year, we were all told which committees we were on. Yeah. Quick process. We now have a potential where you have 1 or more committees where there needs to be a hustings and a vote. We suddenly move from something that possibly took 20 minutes, half an hour last year to something that could take 2 hours. I'm just flagging that up as a consequence.
Absolutely, and that's a consequence of taking phone calls and making decisions and not transacting business in a proper open manner. So every action has a reaction.
It does. I think there may be a way to address that though, which is this. You could short circuit it to a certain extent by if the administration makes it clear that this committee, there are 11 people who applied, but there's only 9 places. Here are the 11 who have applied. Here is your voting slip, and you fill it in advance of the meeting.
You could give your, yes, if we knew that there was a
Which
surplus,
I think
you could
you'd have-
include your paragraph as to why it should be used.
I thought, what I put down on here was, you might only have 5 bullet points.
Yeah.
Rather than the 2 minutes. It's skinning the cat by a different way, isn't it? But I think people should have the right to say, I think I should be on this committee because, bang, 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 no more than 5. More than 5 is discount.
I'd be more comfortable with that, Peter. At least there still is transparency, there's still an opportunity to sell why you're the right person, but it shortens the experience in that room. Which could be quite elongated if we're
And
So,
and I think what you could say is, I'm sorry folks, but you have to give your votes to the town clerk the morning of the actual town council meeting. So that's assuming we're happy that it all disappears. This is my problem, is it disappears into a black hole, and
I think, and again, I think I'll be comfortable with that, Peter, in the sense that if we go into even a voting process, we then are going to be sitting here whilst the town clerk tries to analyse and tries to mop up all of the numbers. If that's all going to be beforehand, as long as everything is transparent and that it's available, then I prefer it to be done out with the meeting. It doesn't say the town clerk meeting, unfortunately.
You don't understand.
well, to a certain extent, and this is where perhaps I'm being a bit hard-nosed, we have admin support precisely because we need admin support.
just looking for exceptions.
So you've got
Stop the conversation.
A canonic statement.
Yeah, but you know, in many respects, that is very similar to the process that was, in my recollection, was followed last year, but it was just sent into the mayor and nobody had really had the visibility and transparency. And, you know, that's visibility and transparency is everything in these circumstances.
So what you would then need, you would need a control sheet. So you would
Yeah,
need,
you need a control sheet which is issued to everybody, and it says Fred Blobbs received 10 votes, John Smith received 9, Bill Sykes received 7, and so on. So the cut-off point was 7 votes.
The thing that I'm sorry, Martin, the thing I'm wrestling with in my mind is this notion that individual councillors are on several committees and are over-committed with the committees.
And I made that point a while ago, that one person was on 4, no, I think there were 5 committees. And the mayor admittedly is on everything, unless the council decides otherwise. It doesn't have to be the deputy chair of each committee, but that's another matter for the committee to decide. But there is one person who is on absolutely everything, and equally there are some people who are on 1. Now that may be choice, but I think for one person to be on 5, I think it was certainly 4, if not 5. If you hadn't 4, it was 5.
Well, so if you just go through the committees again.
Right, the committees
Those
are
are finance and general purpose.
finance and general purposes.
That's 9.
Yeah.
HR is 5.
HR is 5.
Planning is 9.
Planning is 9, and
Heritage and townscape
I think is 9.
is 9.
And
And
I
in
don't
terms
know
of, in terms of the councillors, because the mayor is on each of those, so there are 4, 8, 8 and 8 councillor places available. Okay.
So that's 28 people. 28 persons.
That's 28 places divided by 15 councillors, so each councillor should effectively be on 2.
Two committees. Well, why didn't we set a limit of 3? That no council should be. But, well, if
But
they
then you've got the Monk's Wall and you've got the museum.
they're subcommittees.
Not Monks Wall.
Monk's Wall is no. But Monk's Wall, is that a full 9 people?
No, no.
Was that
I
5?
think it's 5. I can look it up.
Yeah, I struggle a bit with how to do the maths. So.
Or might replace Simon. D. Might be 5.
I think Monk's Wall is 5. Or do you make it something like,
If it's oversubscribed, preference will be given to, but then you decide which committees, the order of
Yeah.
appointment to the committees.
should we not say, and this is unreasonable, that every councillor should be on at least 1 committee? Is that unreasonable?
Should have the opportunity to be on at least one committee, or should be?
I would prefer should be. Otherwise, why are they a councillor? It comes back to this, this thing about the youth raised quite rightly, that they're available to serve. If you get elected as a councillor, surely you should be prepared to do 1 committee, but don't expect you to do 3, 4, 5 committees.
I don't think any councillor would object to that.
Okay, all right, each councillor.
No. It doesn't sort of help us in the current way.
Yeah, it's 5 for the, Monks Wall.
So that's 28. Is that-
Including the mayor.
No, it's,
That includes the mayor.
so it's 4 then.
It's for
So that's 32 places
32 places.
divided by 16.
Well, divided by 15 because of the mayors. We're still coming out of people should serve on about 2 committees. So what we should say,
So
in my mind, is that councillors, are expected to serve on at least 1 committee and preferably on 2.
Good.
I think that's what, whichever way we come, if we look, let's look at some of our colleagues, someone like Vicky, for example, who is really good, but she works shifts. And she struggles to be on, turn up for some meetings. She genuinely struggles, but she's a very good soul, a very willing person, and puts the best in when she can. We have to look also at people like Dean Marie, who haven't got shifts, but has got irregular days when he works, and he could be in Torquay or in Belgium, I think it is, and you have to recognise the practicalities. We're not all sort of like ourselves, sort of gentlemen of leisure,
Well,
if we want to convince you.
the thought in my mind during the previous discussion was whether we should cap the number of committees that somebody is on at 3.
I think we should. It will force a few things, and somebody can have to decide, I really want to be on this committee rather than that.
Exactly.
What do others think about capping at 3?
Yeah, there's pros and cons, whichever way you slice and dice it, in my opinion. And to some extent, let's not get too driven by it, because if an individual councillor wants to be on only 1 committee, so be it.
Yeah.
If one wants to be on every committee, to some extent, regardless of personalities, so be it.
Well, I would be,
As long as you're still looking for the numbers. And that might take into consideration if you then go to a voting perspective,
yeah,
because
that's
others
what
might
you
say,
suggested, yeah.
that person, we can already see is on all the other committees, so therefore I'm not willing to vote. But that's your personal choice.
I think I would be happier that a person could go for more than 3 committees if it was an open and transparent process. My concern is it was completely opaque, and I also didn't get asked anything about my skills and experience. So, you know, I think it's very haphazard, and I know for a fact that Colin said the same thing. Nobody ever asked me.
Oh, I'm sure I got a message from the town clerk at the time.
But was that after that was before the committees had been
Before the committee. Yeah. I'll dig it out, I'll have a look.
I mean, we need to come on to what happens in election.
Do we need to do that today, sir? I am the servant of this committee, but
So I think we agreed then that councillors should be on no more than 3 committees and a minimum of 1.
I think we say the minimum of 1.
Yes,
We say ideally
ideally.
they should not be on more than 3.
Yeah.
Would you be content with that, Peter? How do you see that? Or do you think that's
No, I do think, I think it's really important that we have people like Vicky and Dean, who are kind of working, but they do put themselves forward as a councillor, and when you put yourself forward as a councillor, you've got to make a commitment. And I understand the difficulty, with shift working and availability issues, but, you are volunteering as a councillor, and it's a serious, commitment.
okay? So
You don't agree, Anna?
My sense is we're a group of individuals. We all have different desires in terms of our roles in the council, and I think we should. It's not the formal workplace, and if somebody wants to have their own, and that's why I won't speak about any named individuals, because I think it's their choice, and I shouldn't be judgmental of their decisions, because ultimately I'm responsible for my own decisions, and I will play my role as I feel best. I might be disappointed if I didn't get into committee because I was overridden by an individual who was on every committee, and therefore I lost out. But that's personal choice. So I don't go that far on it, if I'm being honest. I'm relaxed. I think things, on the 80-20 rule, I think things work on an 80-20 rule, but I think we can make improvements, and that's what we're trying to do now.
Could you read out the text again?
Remind me of what we agreed.
well, I think we're agreed. Discuss.
What I've written here is councillors shall be on no more than 3 committees and ideally a minimum of 1.
I thought we flipped it.
I would rather say normally rather than ideally. Yeah.
Okay, normally I'll change that to norm. That is as long as a piece of string, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. Normally I'm a reasonable person.
Except for when I'm not.
Yeah, right. Then, if we're broadly agreed on that, then we have an issue of how does the town clerk present the information to us? Now that says that she has to have a cut-off date with everybody saying what they'd like to do. Now, whether she wants 1 or 2 of us to help her, I don't know. I'm prepared to help her on this, and wearing my standing orders and working group chair hat, but it is a delicate one, because obviously, I'm a councillor, I've got my own prejudices.
It's an officer's role.
I think it's an officer's role, but to be frank, we're not getting everything that we should be getting at the moment. I don't want to.
There's a team of people, of officers, and it's a one-off exercise, maybe once a year or every 4 years. It's not, something that can be done relatively quickly in my
Okay.
mind.
It's officers decide, but it is officers that are not the mayor.
That was the question.
I don't think it can be the mayor.
Sorry?
I don't think it can be the mayor. It has to be officers to present the information. Otherwise, it was straight back to where we started from, I think.
Again, I'm sorry, I'm going to be a bit more relaxed again. I'm not too, the mayor has a role to play in the council. It's an important role and that needs to be recognised. In terms of this selection process, this is the key thing for the next 12 months. I would be just as content for the mayor being involved in the process, so long as the process is transparent. Any key material that we would expect to see as individuals and as a council are available.
So we can look at the paperwork, is what you're saying.
Well, it would come through as part of the report, wouldn't it, surely?
Yes.
But just humour me, in terms of the mayor making and the committee appointments, what's the difference in times?
Well, the mayor making is in,
The mayor making is just the same.
Right.
but someone has to elect the mayor, don't they?
But, yeah, but the mayor making is the ceremonial thing after the mayor has been elected at a committee. So the mayor can't do that, and because he doesn't know if he's been appointed.
There's a point.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean.
Oh, that's a very nice point. Did you get any legal training by any chance?
Sorry?
Have you had any legal training?
I've had too much time on LMJ. I was with a partner of a very large
Fine.
practice, and he said that's LMJ, legal mumbo jumbo. So,
Okay, fine, that's a nice point. Very good, well made. Right, so we're back to the officers. They need a suitable timescale for people to apply, and if they don't apply in time, that's their hard luck. You're going to have to bring shutters down, because we cannot have the officers who are doing a busy job continually having to put things back because Fred Boggs couldn't get his form in time.
Okay.
And so they should very rapidly be able to say there are 5 committees, 3 of them no problem at all. Here are the names, right? One of them is short of a person. Volunteers, anyone? We have one which has got too many people. So on that basis, do you want to vote? The trouble is you won't know. You won't know until the day, will you? That's the thing, the big problem. You won't know until the day. Would you know in advance?
Oh, yes, you would.
Sorry, I thought the idea was that we did these voting.
Yeah.
Slips, and they would be sent.
They would be, but you'd have to know who was applying for which.
Yes, exactly.
So
Actually,
you need
what
Tuesday.
would be good, but not really possible this year, would be in the April meeting, the councillors have to provide at the April meeting, they have to provide the town clerk with their
requests
candidates
or applications. Yeah, that would be actually quite a good way of doing it.
Wouldn't we be written out? Wouldn't we just get an email and ask us to
That's
send it?
also possible, yeah.
And that's what you would be doing, I would have
Well, okay.
It's not difficult.
It's trying to get the time staged so that they're not overworked. And that they've got time to get their heads right. And then, so it has to be a 2-stage process, doesn't it? The nominations have to be in. We only, as councillors, need to know where there is a problem in too many people. That's the only thing we need to know about.
Yeah.
And that's it. Once we get that, we can then do our voting slips and send them in by a certain date.
Yes.
It would have to be a 2-stage process. Otherwise, you're going to tie up an entire council meeting and somebody makes an arithmetic error and we're back to square one.
If this was a club or something like that, you'd have a notice board and you'd have a list of the committees and you'd just put your
Name against it.
against what you want to do.
Yeah.
Now, maybe with one drive or whatever it's called, we can do that.
I think it's possibly going to be a little bit late. I think I got the impression from the training
Why don't we
session.
have a notice board? People sign up, we've got a whiteboard over there.
But email's just as good, I think, because not everybody comes in as such.
Yeah, I
Or, somebody with a quick,
So each councillor, so there is a standard spreadsheet, the councillors' names and
And just.
the names of the committees, and then
Yeah,
tick the box you want to go in.
yes, and that was very rapid, and it provided you get that in sufficient time. The clerk and her team can say, right, bang, 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 3 no problems, 1 shortage and 1 more, 1 over.
Yeah.
So, and we are only really concerned about whether there's too many people, because the others are quickly solved, or you have an option B, which is run without an additional person providing you for it. Would-
so you've both served on councils elsewhere. Yeah. And for committees that exist, I mean, no committees, so in terms of elsewhere, was it an emailed process, or is a committee choice coming up? Which one's your job?
No, it was,
Or were you told?
I don't think we had a problem of having more people asking to be on committee than there were members.
So,
I think it was just, like you say, it was a block vote. But we were a new council, so it wasn't as if these were people who'd been served.
did you just go into a meeting that's going to select committee members, and you just said, who wants to be on this committee, people will hands up? Did it happen in real time? I'm just seeing if you had any.
I thought you were the chair.
I think what happened, when we were formed in 2015, the mayor at the time, I think had ideas about who to put on the
Yeah,
committee.
yeah.
And we thought because we did know him at that time.
Accepted it, yes.
So can I summarise what I think is agreed? Every councillor gets a matrix that says, here are the committees, tick here if you want to be on the committee.
Mhm.
That has to be in by a certain date into the admin support.
Yep.
The admin support have to collate that,
Yep.
and then they would tell us in advance of the May meeting. We have no problems with committees 1, 3 and 4. Committee 2 is undersubscribed.
Yep.
Committee 5 is oversubscribed. We only need to have some kind of voting for committee 5.
Yeah.
And we would have then we'd have to say by a certain date, maybe
Well,
one, sorry,
well, I
yeah.
mean, it has to be formally adopted, but it's not.
So is that all we want to say? I mean, I'll try to write something up and a flow chart for you folks to tear apart. I don't mean that in a negative sense, but I think we've got to be satisfied to work for. Then I would want to go and speak to Jill.
I think from the finer points on that, to go back to your committees, where there's an undersupply, people think again, are
Yeah,
you
that's a
willing
good
to
point.
go? And where there's an oversupply, people think again, are you willing to stand down? And then if we got to a stage where we've asked that question of councillors, we get to a stage where there's still an oversupply of available volunteers, only those councillors would then do their 5 bullet points,
Yeah,
because they're the ones that should.
yes, but we don't want all 16 standing up saying why they want to be on the it's only this particular committee, why I think I'm the right person for this committee.
Yeah, and we can have one block vote for committees 1, 3, 4 and 6.
Yeah.
If everybody's happy,
Okay,
we're in balance.
okay. Shall I try to write this up and circulate it to you over the next 48 hours?
Thank you.
And then hopefully I can tear up being chair and secretary, meditate and say never again.
I think you
So-
sound exceptionally effective.
If you circulate that and there's any comments or whatever, we should be able to publicise it then as part of the report.
I think I would like to talk to to Jill to say so it doesn't come as a bolt.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I think it's even,
Because I think we'll be quite
need
a
to sort of
push back at
yeah.
first, because she has what she calls the slate approach.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I didn't quite understand the slate.
I think it's basically that one approach that I've just described.
Yeah.
You put, I think, put your names on the slate, and if it's all balanced, put all the names are on the blackboard.
Off you go.
Off we go. I think that's her approach.
Right.
I suppose the slight concern is, in terms of process, a report would need to go to the April STC.
Yes. But that's not till the 29th.
No. Does that then give the capacity to do what needs to be done in a scenario where a committee has got 2 million members, i.e., we've got 3 steps in that process.
Well, you
Bid with a closing date, think again with a closing date, 5 bullets with a closing date, all before May's meeting.
well, you've got 4 weeks.
Just
I know you're right. You're right.
sorry, and another step. 2 steps, interim steps, admin, assimilating and producing, and also assimilating and producing. So there's 6 steps in that process.
But
Can you give me note of that? I mean,
but that is what I think we really from next year need to use the April meeting, because it's the time when you can lock the door and say, nobody who's here without.
Yeah, and you can even do the crossing, in real time on the board, can't you? Then that says that we need to deal with this committee and deal with it between now and May.
Yeah.
yeah. At the April meeting, we have 2 issues. First of all, the council has to accept the proposal. If they don't accept the proposal,
Which is
then we will say, over to you, lads and lasses.
Yeah.
You sort it. We've done our best.
Can I just say what I had in mind with this kind of table, or this decision tree, was to make that an appendix to the existing standing orders, and just put a line, a new clause in the existing standing orders to refer to it.
I
And
think
then
that's
it would
very
be
useful.
built into the standing orders.
That's very useful, and I was going to do some version of that, so that they see it in black and white. This is what we're going to do, and so on. But if they reject it, then we will say, well, over to you folks. I don't suggest we volunteer to re-examine it. Up to you folks, but I think we said we.
Well, it all depends on the
Jail,
comments.
isn't it?
Pardon?
In effect. Sorry, say it over to you folks.
It's back to
No, but I don't think it's as black and white as that. If there's minor comments or something like that, we're reasonable people. So.
Yourself. We're preposterous as well, I could say. Okay, so that's the first thing. And then assuming that they accept it, they will have to fill in their desires that evening, so the town clerk can start working on it, or the following day. The meetings are always on a Monday, so on the Tuesday they fill in the desires. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the town clerk could have a spreadsheet, a printed off spreadsheet, and as people are going out of the April meeting to tick which committees they want to serve on.
I think in terms of keeping it clean, keeping it in individuals' control, I think they should be allowed to
Email.
rather than looking at a sheet that's got other.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Right.
Within a day. There's no reason why
I
not.
know, it's only a 30-second job really, isn't it?
Or some people will relish this.
Since I'm a gentleman of leisure, I mean, Jill does need some help.
Certainly, yeah. I think she does. This is going to be the first time we've done it this way, if it's accepted. And there will inevitably be little snags that crop up that we haven't thought about.
Yeah.
It always happens, doesn't it?
Yeah, people are absent from the meeting, whatever.
Yeah.
People are ill and not able to fully form. Holiday, planning.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to try to arrange a meeting with Jill for next week. That could be difficult.
Could be. I think next week's particularly, it's not the heaviest as weeks.
Has the year end finished now, as far as she's concerned, you know, and the RFO? Or are they still in the middle of the year end?
Well, they will be surely in the middle of year end, because it's only just finished last week, wasn't it? So it'll be a while, and she's got the annual meeting next week.
That's
so
no, you're right, there is, the annual town meeting is going to be fully taking her attention, for sure.
That's Wednesday, isn't it?
Yeah.
And does it usually create more work afterwards? Significant amount of work.
It's limited, absolutely limited.
Yeah, there is some timescale on Monday.
Yeah, how to Townscape on Monday. We've got the chap coming from, to
Yes,
talk about
Tuesday. Yeah,
the bus stop
yeah, on Tuesday.
on Tuesday at 5:30 or something.
Yeah.
Okay, should I bring my trailer around?
Bring one to you have
That really.
I think
a lorry
that
with
was-
hay
Yeah,
trailers on it.
and in addition, what's the maximum length of beam you can have behind your trailer with a marker flag on it? I think it's about 2 meters.
The locality is, I'm sure it's a couple of meters, yeah.
I'm sure.
Could you do it whilst the meeting's going on, so when you get someone who's out window?
But yeah, just beat the
Yeah,
horn.
have the meeting on the corner.
Wait, that's the best thing to do.
It'd be a shame if the tractor stalled right in front of the bus.
Yes.
Oh, that's. Are we done?
I think so. Hopefully, we can't flog it anymore, can we?
Okay. Well, I was still. Yeah. I will still, unless you say otherwise, I'd still rather have the meeting in the diary